The following story is about a real homicide investigation with graphic content. Viewer discretion is advised. Previously on The Murder Mind.
He told me that he told on several different occasions that he would kill her.
She's put me on the right path as far as motive goes. She gives me an idea of what was going on in this victim's life right up until her disappearance. And right now, all roads are pointing to Lee Hines. He was a monster.
And I heard her scream. She screamed one time really loud. And then I just get to
So what Tina probably heard was actually the murder occurring in real time.
When I asked you some questions about the relationship you had with him, when y'all were together, had he ever physically assaulted you?
Not until we came to South Carolina.
And right on cue, their relationship takes a dramatic turn in the worst direction. So I'm talking to Jen on the phone, and I'm starting to get the impression that Lee Hines has done something absolutely horrible to her. So Jen tells me that she's just not feeling Nitty. She knows this thing is not going anywhere. She's actually afraid of him. She wants to leave South Carolina and move back to New York, but Nitty is not having that. Things take a turn and things get violent. So the next thing that Jen says blows me away. She tells me that Nitty actually grabbed her, threw her on the bed, starts choking her, assaulting her, and then grabs a can of liquid accelerant and starts pouring it all over her.
He poured some stuff on you, is that correct?
You tried to set me on fire.
Tried to set you on fire.
This fool actually tried to set her on fire, but by the grace of God, whatever that accelerant was, it would not ignite. It may have been rubbing alcohol, but for whatever it was, he intentionally was trying to set this woman on fire. So let's recap this fire situation. I'm thinking back to Eddie Wilkowski's victim in New York City. House set on fire, they discovered this poor girl murdered in her own home. And then Jen herself, her house was set on fire, and she always believed Nitty was responsible for that. And now I'm hearing straight from the victim's mouth. Jen herself tells me that Nitty tried to set her on fire. So these are three incidents that fire has been introduced into the mix, and Nitty is central to every one of them. So Jen, in this particular case, thank God the fire didn't start. She escaped the room, calls 911, and defends herself, stands up for herself. The South Carolina police arrive and they quickly arrest Nitty. And what's interesting is what's going on in Atlanta right now is detectives at that time are looking at Nitty for the murder of LaCharity Gaines. They issued an arrest warrant and they found Nitty in jail in South Carolina. He's in jail for the assault and attempted murder of Jen in South Carolina. Atlanta gets wind of it, issues an arrest warrant for LaCharity Gaines, and they send it to South Carolina and say, don't let this guy out, we're coming to get him. And we already know how that turned out in Atlanta.
Was there any other instance where he did anything to you physically?
Like within those 2 months, the last straw was when he started setting me on fire when he went to jail. But like about a month or two before we were going through it down here because things weren't going right. He might slap me here and there, and I didn't report it. But that last time was the big time that I had to report it.
Okay.
So of course, I want to know what the disposition is of the assault charge against Jen in South Carolina. Well, Jen tells me that, like many women, she didn't want to go forward with these charges. She just wanted to be done with it. She called the district attorney's office in South Carolina and told her she wanted to drop the charges. And in my experience, this is very common for women who keep going back to their abusers. They are narcissists that have complete control over their victims. They gaslight them, they make them feel like they're the problem. They start second guessing themselves. Many times women call the police, their abuser gets arrested, they drop the charges, they get back together, and the cycle unfortunately keeps repeating itself. And finally, I may be standing over that victim trying to investigate the homicide after a history of abuse from their abuser. So it's no mystery why Jen decided to drop the charges. She was afraid of Nitty. She wanted nothing to do with it. But I give her credit because whatever path she chose, It worked. She wanted distance and space from Nitty. She dropped the charges and she decided to leave him alone, to not let him control her anymore. She completely cut ties. She made it out. Not many women do that. She figured, drop the charges, he'll go on his way, she'll go on her way, and they'll be done. So that's exactly what happened. She drops the assault charges in South Carolina. Nitty is meanwhile in custody in Atlanta on the murder charge. We already know what happened there. That case was dismissed. Nitty has no holds on him. He doesn't have to go back to South Carolina to face those charges. So he leaves Atlanta and goes straight back to New York City.
Did he ever tell you he was arrested in Atlanta for anything?
No, he never did tell me he was arrested in Atlanta.
She had no idea that Atlanta PD went and got Nitty from South Carolina from the arrest on the assault from her and transported him to Atlanta charged with murder. I asked Jen, have you ever been to Atlanta with Nitty ever in the past? Jen says, yeah, actually, prior to all of this commotion, she and Nitty had traveled to Atlanta.
We went to Atlanta together at one time for like 3 weeks. That's how I met the half-brother, half-a-mil.
Right.
Jen was in Atlanta staying in a motel with Nitty to meet a person who Nitty described as his half-brother, a guy named Half a Mil. He was a local up-and-coming rapper. And the reason they called him Half a Mil, he actually got a record deal and the record company offered him $500,000, so he changed his name to a Half a Mil. And that's the only time and the only experience he's ever had in Atlanta.
When you were here, were you staying in hotels, and do you remember what part of town?
I didn't know, I don't know what part of town, I know it was on La Quinta, and it was by like a 4-strip highway.
Yeah.
And there were restaurants on one side and like hotels and a restaurant on the other side.
Okay.
That's my only time in Atlanta was that one time, but we just stayed for like 3 weeks.
Okay.
So Jen would keep in touch with people that still knew Nitty, and later she learned the reason that he was brought from South Carolina to Atlanta was for a murder charge of a woman. Well, Jen started to think, right around the time that this murder supposedly occurred in Atlanta, Nitty shows up and starts to give her these gifts, these shoes and this gold necklace with gold balls on it. Right away, Jen said when she found that out, she felt that those gifts, the shoes and the necklace, belonged to that dead girl in Atlanta, and she got rid of them. She didn't want to wear shoes of a dead woman, much less the jewelry. She threw it out so quickly, she wanted nothing to do with that. So this was a blow to me because I'm thinking, now this evidence is gone. I only have testimonial evidence. It's not as good as actually presenting these pair of shoes to a jury and let them see it.
I think that's good for now. If I can, would you mind if I called you back?
No, then just call me.
Okay.
So after I interviewed Jen, I walked away with this feeling like I am just scratching the surface of this thing. At this point in the investigation, I decided it's time to speak to LaCharity's mother. She is someone who's gonna have a wealth of information. Up until this point, I haven't contacted her yet, and the reason why is at any point when you open a cold case, this family has already been through so much trauma initially when the homicide occurred. I wanna make sure that I can close this case before I start peeling those scabs off of those wounds. It's no sense in me reaching out to a family unless I'm positive that I'm going to be able to close this case. I don't want to traumatize this mother any more than I need to. At this point in the investigation, I know I'm onto something. I know that there's going to be a conclusion. Don't know when, don't know how, but I'm very confident. So I'm comfortable to call LaCharity's mom to get more information about her daughter.
The time is 6:50 p.m. My name is Detective Velazquez, Atlanta Police Homicide.
So you're going to actually hear the interview with my Atlanta victim's mother, but as usual, we've disguised her voice to protect her identity.
This is a statement in regards to the homicide investigation of your daughter, LaCharity Gaines. You recall giving the police a statement previously, correct?
Yes.
When I initially called my victim's mother, she was so shocked to hear from the Atlanta Police Department. She thought that this case was completely lost, forgotten, and that nobody cared about her daughter. I explained to her that I was a cold case detective and that I was reopening the case of her daughter's murder and I had made some progress and I needed to ask her questions. My victim's mother was extremely grateful, thankful that at least somebody didn't forget her daughter. She always wondered what happened to this case. Why wasn't it closed? Why did they not find her daughter's killer? I never make guarantees. I don't promise family members that I'm going to close the case. Although I felt confident I could, the only promise I made to this victim's mother, as I did to every one of my other victims' families, is that I would do my best to bring resolution to this case, some closure, and whoever's responsible, put them in jail. And she was very thankful that at least we haven't forgotten about her daughter. LaCharity's mom tells me that she was a wonderful mother to her 2 young children, that they suffered missing their mom every day, and that she actually raised LaCharity's children after her murder, and that she was very grief-stricken, sad, glad to be able to raise her kids, but sad that her daughter wasn't around to at least see her children grow, to have that connection with her kids. She was a good person, and she was proud to be able to raise LaCharity's children for her.
I'm not going to go through every detail of what happened on that day, but I'd like for you to give me your version of, starting with, she was dating a man at the time of her disappearance. Do you know that person's name?
Nitty was all I knew. Nitty from New York City.
Okay. Nitty from New York City. You know how long she had been dating him?
I don't think it was a very long period. I think she had just met him, and it wasn't that long.
So it was a matter of months, maybe?
Months, yes.
Okay. And was he living with her at the time of her disappearance?
Yes.
I want to know what my victim's mother knows about Lee Hines.
I know she was trying to get him out of the house, but prior to that, was he living there with her?
Yeah, he came from New York to stay with me, yeah.
And how did they meet, do you know?
They met at this restaurant. We met one Sunday at the restaurant. At a restaurant off of Boulevard. We was at the restaurant.
Now, were you with her the first time they met?
Yeah.
I mean, was it kind of like, you know, were they planning on meeting, or they just kind of...
It was random. It was just random.
A random meeting, okay, and then they exchanged numbers, or however you do it.
Yeah, exchanged numbers, yeah, and they started.
From that point on, Nitty and LaCharity started communicating, eventually leading to a date, and then they started dating regularly to the point where Nitty moved in with LaCharity. LaCharity's mother initially was okay with Nitty, because like every other narcissist, Nitty was saying everything right. He was hitting and checking all the boxes, and very charming and drawing LaCharity in. LaCharity seemed happy, so her mother felt great for the relationship, until a few weeks after they started dating, things started to take another turn.
Prior to her disappearance, did she ever tell you whether or not Nitty had ever acted violently towards her, hit her, did anything physically to her?
Yeah, he was violent. That's why she wanted him out, because, you know, she saw a side of him that she just wasn't really, you know, that was not what she was looking for.
LaCharity would share with her that she had some concerns about this new man in her life. She said he was verbally abusive and eventually became physically abusive. It wasn't even a month into the relationship when this started to happen. So LaCharity's mom was very concerned for her daughter's safety and gave her advice, told her, get out of the relationship, get rid of him, tell him to move out of your house. But LaCharity, according to her mom, seemed trapped. To her mother, she seemed like she couldn't control what was going on, that Nitty had full control over her daughter. So of course, I want to know what the mom knows about the day that her daughter disappeared. She tells me that she was out with her daughter during the day, all day, shopping, having fun, grabbing food, and they returned to LaCharity's apartment sometime between 9 and 10 p.m. Now that's important. This timeline is so important. We already know that LaCharity's neighbor got a phone call from her at midnight. We have now closed that window in the timeline to literally 2 hours.
Okay, and did you talk to her on the phone at all anymore that night?
She got in, we talked brief on the phone.
Okay, and when you talked to her on the phone, was Nitty, do you know whether or not you heard Nitty in the background?
Well, no, I didn't, but she said it was there.
Were they arguing, or could you tell if anything was going on?
Well, I know she was nervous, and she just wanted him out.
She wanted him out, okay.
And LaCharity tells her that Nitty is there, and he's acting really weird.
So then she was telling me how he was like walking around, wiping everything off, you know, because she said he was just wiping down everything. So I don't know.
It's as if he's trying to wipe his fingerprints off of everything in the house. I'm blown away by what she's saying. In my mind, as a trained homicide detective, I can think of only one thing. This dude is wiping his fingerprints off of everything because he plans on killing this victim. This is a premeditated murder. This guy is a monster. So LaCharity's mom tells me that as she continued to talk to her daughter says that Nitty explains to LaCharity that he's actually gonna leave. He's gonna leave the apartment, leave her alone. They had a conversation about breaking up. She wanted him out, and he agreed that a friend of his who lives in Atlanta is gonna come and pick him up.
Is it true that she was trying to have somebody pick him up to get him out of there?
Well, it was true that he called. He was telling us that someone was on the way to pick him.
Okay.
That he had to wait on someone that lived here in Atlanta. I don't know exactly who it was now, but I remember it.
Okay.
As LaCharity's mom is telling me the story, I'm thinking this is total BS. She didn't know if it was true or not, but I know. Now, let's really think about this. We already know the type of person Nitty is. He's a narcissist. He's a controller. It's obvious what he's doing at this point. He's controlling LaCharity. He's getting her to put her guard down so she's not concerned. Why would he be wiping his fingerprints down if he's agreeing to leave her alone and leave the apartment? Well, the reason why is he's gonna kill her, and he knows that. But he uses his manipulation and his control over LaCharity to let her guard down so she's not suspicious. This guy is a complete sociopath. LaCharity's mom ends the call with her daughter, tells her she loves her, wishes her good night, and she goes to sleep. Well, what happens next? LaCharity's mom wakes up the next morning to a phone call from one of LaCharity's children telling her when they woke up early in the morning, they couldn't find their mother. She was gone.
Okay, and then, and I'm kind of summarizing, you can disagree or disagree, but the next day one of the children came over to tell you that their mother was gone.
They called me.
They called you. Okay, called you on the phone. Did you go over to the apartment at that point?
That's when I went on over there and I waited with her until she returned, waiting on her to return.
As LaCharity's mom starts looking through the apartment, looking for her daughter, she realizes that LaCharity's car is gone, LaCharity's purse is gone, so she remembers LaCharity telling her Nitty said someone was coming to pick him up. LaCharity's mom immediately thought, well, maybe they didn't show up, and LaCharity decided to drive Nitty wherever he had to go just to get rid of him.
Well, I thought maybe she had dropped him off.
Okay.
You know, because I felt like she didn't want to get rid of him, and by him not being there, I think she must have dropped him off.
I see. Okay. And how long did you wait before you called the police?
Yes, I sat there from about 7:30 to about woke up, maybe about 11 o'clock.
Okay. And do you recall when you were in the apartment with the children, was anything unusual was there anything missing?
Well, the only thing I do remember is when I did open that closet, I seen that bundle in the closet, but it never dawned on me that was my child. I didn't know. I just never thought that.
She actually opens up the pantry door in the kitchen and sees a bundle that she believes are clothes waiting to be washed. What she didn't know was under those clothes was the body of her dead daughter. When LaCharity's mom told me that, I was heartbroken. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This poor woman, who in my opinion was the salt of the earth, opens a closet door and sees a bundle of clothes, not knowing that her dead daughter who's missing is under that pile of clothes. It had to have been heart-wrenching for her when she finally found out. I couldn't help but just give her the sympathy that she needed. It was heartbreaking. I want to know exactly what LaCharity's mom saw in that apartment that was missing. She's looking around. She's actually gathering clues. She's worried about her daughter.
Was her car missing as well?
Yeah, car was on.
Okay. You know, there may have been some mention about clothing belonging to Nitty. Do you recall whether or not you know if he had clothes there and they were missing?
No, his clothes was gone. Everything was gone. Everything belonging to him was already gone.
Okay, so that was gone the next day when you woke up?
Yeah, everything was gone.
Okay.
She had money too. She had just got an income tax. All that was gone.
You know how much money was missing?
It had to be about at least $2,000. It was tax tax. I remember we had went out to eat that night. She was counting the money. I told her, don't pull out the money for nobody.
So she had about $2,000 in cash on her?
Yeah, income tax money.
Wow. Okay, and was that in her purse?
It was in her purse, yeah. It was in her purse.
Okay, and was her purse missing as well?
Yeah, all that was gone.
All that was gone, okay.
As LaCharity's mom is explaining all these items that are missing, I get a thought in my head. I'm like, let me ask her about the Burberry shoes and the gold necklace. LaCharity's mom didn't really know about the shoes, but what she said was, LaCharity wears size 8.5. I'm thinking back to when Jen from South Carolina tells me that Nitty gifted her a pair of Burberry shoes.
Well, let me ask you, what size shoe do you wear?
I wear 8.5 in the women.
And what were those size? Do you remember?
They were 8.5 because they fit perfectly.
Check, those things match. Then I asked the mom this question: what about jewelry? LaCharity's mom drops a bombshell. She goes, actually, LaCharity had a necklace. It was gold with 3 gold balls on it. In fact, I know for sure because I gave it to her as a gift. And I'm like, light bulb moment.
He had this gold chain with a thin chain with some little gold balls around it.
This is the same necklace that Jen describes she's getting from Nitty. Burberry shoes, size 8.5, a gold necklace with gold balls attached to it. Nitty gave Jen a dead woman's shoes and jewelry. Crazy. What I also wanted to know was, did LaCharity's mom ever speak to Nitty? She tells me, actually, yes.
So he called me, talking about not speaking to LaCharity.
Nitty calls LaCharity's mom asking where LaCharity was. Now, LaCharity's mom already suspects that Nitty had something to do with her daughter's death. She was flabbergasted. She was so mad that this sociopath called her.
Now, was that the day that she went missing or the day they found her?
No, that was the day of the memorial service.
The day of the memorial service. So, and you knew it was him because you recognized his voice?
Yeah.
I got you. And do you remember what number came up?
It was, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while.
What was Nitty doing? He's trying to set this thing up to where he is actually looking for LaCharity, knowing that she's dead already, because he killed her. LaCharity's mom told Nitty, don't you ever call my phone again. You're not welcome. We want nothing to do with you. Leave us alone.
I told him, don't call me. You know, and I just hung up.
And then after that one call you got on the day of the memorial from who you believe to be Nitty, did you ever have any other phone calls?
No.
Okay, very good. I think that's all we'll do for today. Hold on one second. I'm going to do a time check. It is 7:05, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the tape.
I ended the call with LaCharity's mom like I normally do with a family member. I thanked her for her cooperation. I told her I was very sorry for her loss. And again, my promise to her, as I do every family member, is that I'm going to do my best to bring closure to this case. Not promise that I'm going to close it, but that I'm going to do my best. And at this point, breaking this case open again, I felt pretty sure that LaCharity's mom and I are going to have another conversation at some point, but it's going to be a better conversation. It's going to be a joyful conversation to tell her that I brought some closure to this case and I've arrested Lee Hines, aka Nitty. So I just got off the phone with LaCharity's mom, and I really want to follow up on these Burberry shoes. So I need to call her best friend Sheila up and button this thing up. I really need to dial in to get this information on these shoes because they're really important. They're very distinct, and if they were taken from the crime scene and they show up somewhere else, that could be evidence that I could present to the prosecution. And as I always do, I'm going to record the conversation and you're going to get to hear it.
Hello?
Hey, Detective Velazquez, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm good. You got a sec?
Yes, I do.
One of the most important details about these Burberry shoes is that Jen told me that they had a wedge-shaped heel. It's very distinct, and if I hear this again, I know I'm on the right path. If Sheila tells me this, it confirms exactly what LaCharity's mom told me.
Question, when we talked the other night, and I got your statement, we mentioned a pair of Burberry shoes. Can you describe those shoes to me?
Details in a homicide investigation are so important. Like they say, the devil is always in the details. And the details in this particular case, Burberry shoes, a gold necklace, if I never see them, but if I can get them particularly described by the people closest to this victim, that's great information. I got to think about what a defense attorney is going to ask me on cross-examination. You didn't recover the shoes. No, I didn't. You're right, counselor. But what I did was I got people very close to the victim to particularly describe these shoes, the necklace, all these other items. The jury still gets to hear that. It's almost as if I really did have those items in my possession. The next best thing is get the best description possible.
There was like a tan color, like cream with red and brown.
By this time, I've already talked to Jen, one of Nitty's ex-girlfriends, who confirmed that Nitty gave her a pair of Burberry shoes that were a wedge. And one thing that homicide detectives always do is we don't cross-contaminate witnesses. We don't tell one witness what another witness said. We don't even tell witnesses who we've spoken to already. Now, there's no reason to believe that Sheila, the best friend of this victim, would ever know who Jen was, some ex-girlfriend of Nitty, but nevertheless, I don't even mention that. This particular call is focused on Sheila further describing these Burberry shoes because I need to add some more weight to this evidence. So now, in this conversation with Sheila, I need to try to confirm that these shoes in fact were wedges without actually telling Sheila that.
Let me ask you this, without describing the Burberry design, were they shoes that had, were they high heel shoes?
No, they weren't.
I have to be very clever in how I talk to her. I don't want to taint her statement. I don't want to feed her information because, again, I got to think about what a defense attorney is going to ask me on the stand. I need a jury to hear a clean version of this conversation. And if Sheila indeed can describe these heels, that just adds more weight to the evidence. Even though I may never see these shoes, this is evidence that I can present in court.
Okay, describe the type of soles they had on them.
They were flat.
Well, as a man who's not familiar with women's shoes like most women would be, when she says the shoes are flat, I have to ask more questions. I'm not quite sure what that means.
And what's a flat? Educate me. What does a flat mean?
It doesn't have a heel. It had like a slight heel, but it wasn't high. It wasn't a high heel.
Okay.
Now, Sheila never said the word wedge like Jen did, but in my interpretation, the way that Sheila described these shoes, they sounded like a wedge. And I'm betting that when this thing goes to trial, we're gonna have enough women on the jury that's gonna understand exactly what Sheila meant.
That's all I needed to ask you, okay?
Okay.
And I'll talk to you soon again. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, bye-bye.
So I end the call with Sheila, and I'm starting to think about what my next steps. But not 5 minutes after ending that call, it dawned on me that I never asked Sheila about LaCharity's missing gold necklace. Now, if Sheila can also describe that necklace, and perhaps as her best friend, maybe have a photograph of LaCharity wearing that necklace, that's just as good as having a necklace in my possession. So I called Sheila back up.
Hello?
Hey, Detective Velazquez, sorry to bother you again.
Yeah, it's fine.
Let me ask you another question. Do you remember any particular jewelry that she used to wear?
I don't remember the exact designs on them, but I know she had rings.
Do you ever remember her having or wearing a gold necklace that had some type of balls, like gold balls attached to it?
And immediately, Sheila said, absolutely. I remember that necklace.
She would wear that often, do you think?
Yeah, she would always have that on.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have any photographs of her maybe wearing either those shoes, those Burberry shoes we talked about, or that particular necklace?
Yeah, I'm going to have to look, because I do have some pictures of her. I'm going to have to look and see if she has on the necklace, but I know I don't have the picture with her with the shoes on.
Okay. She had just purchased those shoes, is that right?
I think she purchased those like a day before it happened.
She assured me that she would check all of her photos and everywhere that she keeps them. And if there was one showing LaCharity wearing this necklace, she'd call me back right away.
Let me know, okay?
Okay, I sure will.
All right, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
So I end the call with Sheila, and I'm just writing notes. I'm thinking back on the several calls I've just had with her, and I feel good. I am convinced that these Burberry shoes that we have been talking about and the gold necklace with the little gold balls are actually the items that were taken from LaCharity Gaines after she was killed. I've been in homicide 10 years. At this point in my career, I am convinced that this is good evidence. Sheila called me back, and unfortunately, she wasn't able to find any photographs of LaCharity wearing the gold necklace. I'm gathering information on the murder of LaCharity Gaines in Atlanta. I'm establishing a timeline. I'm tightening the timeline. I'm getting information on my suspect, Nitty, bringing me closer to the murder of LaCharity Gaines in Atlanta. But there's another case in New York. If Nitty's from New York, he's got a long history there. So the next point in this investigation is, I gotta reach out to the NYPD detective, Eddie Wilkowski. I gotta ask him some questions to see if he's got any witnesses, any people associated with Nitty that can help further this investigation. So I get on the phone with Eddie and we start chopping it up. I update him on the Atlanta investigation and I ask for his assistance in helping me find individuals associated with Nitty. Detective Wilkowski tells me he may have found someone who actually has information on the murder of my Atlanta victim, LaCharity Gaines. This is exactly what I've been looking for. This is the reason I called Detective Wilkowski. This worked out. I just hit pay dirt. This information is great. Detective Wilkowski tells me what this person's saying, but I gotta hear this with my own ears. This is my case in Atlanta. I have a witness in New York City, possibly other witnesses in New York City on the home turf from where my prime suspect is from. I need to put my feet on the cold concrete of New York City. I go to my supervisors in Atlanta and I tell them I've got to take a trip to the Big Apple. And they quickly approve the trip. This isn't the first time I've had to go out of state to investigate a local murder in Atlanta. I've done this before. Witnesses move, suspects are out of town. I've got to go find them, interview them, and get that information myself. This is not anything unusual for a detective to go to another state, ask for assistance from the local law enforcement there, and continue their investigation. So it's now August 30th, 2010, and I land in the Big Apple. Eddie Wilkowski meets me at the airport, picks me up in this beat-up Crown Victoria police detective vehicle, just like you see on TV. I meet Eddie in person for the first time, and he's everything I thought he'd be. He's a hardened, grizzled, tall, lanky detective from Queens with a heavy New York accent. He's a great guy. He's very polite, he's very mannerable, but this guy's been doing this job for a long time. He's not only been a cop for over 2 decades, he's been investigating murder for just as long. I knew I was in the presence of somebody that can help me, and this guy was just like an instant partner. We clicked as soon as I sat in his car. I knew this trip was gonna be productive. I actually was born in New York City. I was born in the Bronx, so I left as a child, moved out of state, but would visit often. I know New York and I know the feel of it. I remember the memories from when I was a child, the smell of boiled peanuts, the coffee shops, the pizza parlors, the guy in this corner selling ice cream. This was something that was familiar to me. And now I'm in the presence of an NYPD detective who's lived here his entire life, experienced the things that I had as a child, but then also experienced everything I've experienced in Atlanta as law enforcement. It was almost like being back home. So I get into Crown Vic with Eddie. I'm not going to the hotel. Detective Wilkowski tells me that he identified a girlfriend who lived in an apartment in Queens, and we were heading straight there to knock on the door and try to interview her. So Detective Wilkowski and I start talking about the strategy. We're gonna go there and Detective Wilkowski is gonna do his thing. I want him to be who he is. He's NYPD. And I let him know that, look, I want people to know that I'm Atlanta PD. I want this witness to understand that this case is so important that I flew all the way here from Atlanta. I also wanted these witnesses to know I was from Atlanta PD, just in case they weren't comfortable talking with NYPD. So we arrive at this apartment complex, this tenement building in Far Rockaway, Queens, New York. Eddie gets out of the car, I get out of the car, we're both wearing suits. Eddie is taking the lead. It's his turf, he's NYPD Homicide, I'm from Atlanta, and I'm just letting Eddie do his thing. So we get to this tenement building, we walk in the front door in the hallway, and there's a staircase. This is a walk-up. There are no elevators, very common for apartment buildings in New York City. As we get closer to the stairwell, I can clearly see about 5 guys sitting on the stoop, blocking the way to go up the stairs. Detective Wilkowski has the lead. He walks up to this group of 5 young men and politely asks them to move out of the way so we can pass. One of the guys in the group looks at Detective Wilkowski and says, "The stairwell is closed." Now immediately, the hair in the back of my neck is standing up. I'm on high alert. But this is Eddie's turf, and I'm letting Eddie handle his business. Again, politely, Detective Wilkowski says, "Gentlemen, I really need you to move. I'm NYPD." One of the guys looks at Detective Wilkowski and says, "I don't care who you are, the stairwell's closed." And at this point, my blood is boiling. I know I'm not on my turf. I know I'm with another detective I just met. I don't know what his prowess is. I'm concerned at this point, but we have to get upstairs. We have to meet this witness, and this is the only way we can do it. Detective Wilkowski continues with this group of guys trying to negotiate safe passage up a stairwell, 2 flights so we can knock on this witness's door and these guys aren't having it. As this is going on, there's two things going in my mind. I don't know who these guys are. I don't know how they move here in this tenement building. So I'm worried for our safety, but I'm also impatient because this is taking way too long. It's a commotion going on. If we're drawing that much attention, this witness may be reluctant to talk to us. We need to move up to this apartment, knock on the door, and get this interview done. We don't need to be wasting our time with 5 guys sitting on the stoop. I'm really concerned at this point. I don't have a radio. There's nobody I can call. I am 911. Who am I gonna call? I'm worried that this thing is gonna go south and we're gonna have to start putting hands on people. It's not going well. I've gotta do something. And you're gonna hear all about it in the next episode. Coming up on The Murder Mind. I'm looking to the side of her neck, and what do I see? I see a fresh tattoo with the name Nitty. It is absolutely nuts. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please hit the like button and subscribe. And please check me out on other social media platforms, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Lastly, don't forget to come back for the next episode. You won't want to miss it.